Elden Ring is one of the most acclaimed recent games out there, and I personally love it. There really aren't a lot of games out there with unique and fun moment to moment combat, a deep and rich world, and this level of exploration. Normally, you'd be lucky to get one of those things in a game. Souls-like is its own genre at this point, and there are just as many duds as there are successes. So, we're going to focus on games like Elden Ring, but that also have their own style and that bring something new. The first couple of games that come to mind are Nioh 1 and 2. This is Team Ninja's take on the genre, and although it is a little more fast-paced than Elden Ring, it still has a good amount of similarities. It has the familiar checkpoints where you rest and reset your items, it has bosses of all kinds to kill, but it also has its own systems that are pretty deep, which include 3 different stances, counters, abilities, and movesets for each different weapon. These are the kind of games that you can sink a huge amount of time into, trying to beat the game with a wide variety of different styles. And that's something that I think people who played Elden Ring will really appreciate. You can get Nioh 1 and 2 on PlayStation 4, 5, and PC. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is the first of 2 incredible Souls-like games that bring you to the universe of Star Wars. You take the reins of a young Padawan 5 years after Revenge of the Sith and the fall of the Jedi Order, attempting to rebuild and not be stomped out by the Empire. It has a surprisingly difficult and deep combat system that is reminiscent of many other Souls-like games that only expands as you get more into it, and into the sequel, Jedi Survivor. If you love Star Wars and you love Elden Ring, there really isn't any better way to experience the Star Wars universe. And yes, you do get a wide variety of force powers to blast any enemy you come into contact with. You can get Jedi Fallen Order on Xbox and PlayStation and on PC. Lies of P was one of the sleeper hits when it came out that kind of came out of nowhere. On the surface, the premise reads as a Souls-like game mixed with Pinocchio, which doesn't sound like a match made in heaven, but it actually kind of is. The world of Lies of P is very dark fantasy with a nice helping of steampunk. You play as the puppet known as P, I'm sure for licensing reasons, who is one of the creations of Giuseppe Geppetto. A mysterious disease has spread across the city of Krat, and you are sent to understand what the puppet frenzy is and to find the king of puppets. It's more than just another Souls-like, I think. Much like Elden Ring, it expands on the format, adding its own touches. Anyone who's into Elden Ring and Souls games would be doing themselves a disservice not to check it out. Lies of P is available on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Black Myth Wukong is one of the biggest hits of 2024 with a staggering 18 million copies sold in just 2 weeks, and it happens to have some good similarities to Elden Ring. Wukong has very deep lore, courtesy of the fact that it's based on Journey to the West, a 16th century Chinese novel. And where this game really excels is in the bosses. There are a ton of different bosses to fight through all throughout the game. Many of them are optional, requiring you to thoroughly explore each section of the game to find them all. It's interesting that many people didn't think the game was actually real at all when it was first revealed, but it's out now and has been doing amazingly well. Definitely a game that will appeal to fans of Elden Ring. Black Myth Wukong is on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Now, moving into games that have similar mechanics but are very different, and taking things from 3D into 2D, Hollow Knight is one of those games that just hits right. Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania set in a dark world, and you're an insect making your way through it. Has a very similar open field to Elden Ring, except in 2D, allowing you to go in whatever direction you'd like. Hollow Knight has bosses that can absolutely murder you, so you have to be very careful, taking your time, learning all the mechanics, and much like Elden Ring, you'll have to get comfortable with losing. Sometimes that's the only way to learn. Hollow Knight also has a deep world full of lore that you have to really dig into to learn about. There are little secrets, optional bosses, and it's best experienced taking your time and looking around. Hollow Knight is on all modern consoles and PC. If you'd like something that has multiplayer that has some similarities to Elden Ring, you should check out Remnant from the Ashes and its sequel. It has difficult combat that you have to stay mindful and really pay attention to. a lot of different boss encounters and mechanics to learn, an engaging world that has secrets, hidden paths, and all sorts of different loot. And it also gives you the ability to create builds and experiment with different playstyles, all of which you can do while playing with a few friends, or you can play the game solo. The game scales the difficulty depending on how many people are in the game, and you can have 2 other people with you. The sequel, Remnant 2, is also a very good game that builds on everything the first game did, so they're both well worth playing. So that should give you a good place to start. Obviously, the place that you should definitely start is with the previous games in the Soulsborne series, like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Sekiro, and Bloodborne, but I'm going to assume that most people have already done that, so these are just some different ideas for you to go through, a place to start. If you have any other games that fit, go ahead and put them down in the comments. All right, thank you for watching.